Rich teen humiliates a black security guard, then gasps when he sees him on the news. The luxury mall was full of people, shopping bags in hand, moving in and out of expensive stores. The sound of footsteps, soft music, and quiet conversations filled the air. A wealthy teenage boy dressed in designer clothes walked confidently through the mall. He was used to attention, used to getting his way. His father's money made sure of that. As he headed toward an exclusive store, a black security guard stepped in front of him. "Excuse me, sir. May I check your bag?" The teen stopped, staring at the man like he had just been insulted. "Check my bag? Do you even know who I am?" he scoffed. The guard remained calm. "It's just a routine check, sir." But the teen wasn't having it. His voice grew louder. "Do I look like someone who needs to steal? You work for people like me." People turned to watch. Some whispered. Others just waited. The security guard didn't react. But the teen had no idea who he was humiliating. By the time he found out, it would be too late. Have you ever seen someone completely underestimate the wrong person? Share your story in the comments. Stay until the end, because one moment will change everything. The mall was a symbol of wealth and luxury. Bright lights reflected off the polished marble floors. Expensive stores lined the wide hallways, each displaying the latest designer fashion, jewelry, and electronics. Well-dressed shoppers moved from store to store, their arms full of branded shopping bags. The scent of expensive perfume filled the air, blending with the soft hum of background music. Among them was Ryan, a 17-year-old rich teen who walked with confidence. He wore designer sneakers, a gold watch, and a jacket that cost more than most people's rent. His father was a powerful businessman, and Ryan had never heard the word no. He wasn't just rich. He was entitled. As he walked toward one of the most exclusive stores in the mall, he barely noticed the security guards standing at the entrance. To him, they were just background figures, people who existed to serve him. One of the security guards, a black man in his early 40s, stood tall near the entrance. His uniform was clean, his posture straight. His sharp eyes scanned the crowd, watching, assessing, protecting. His name was Daniel Carter. Unlike Ryan, Daniel wasn't born into privilege. He had worked hard his entire life, serving in the military before taking this job. He had seen real struggles, real danger. But today, his job was simple: keep the store safe. As Ryan approached the entrance, Daniel stepped forward, raising a hand. "Excuse me, sir. May I check your bag?" Ryan stopped in his tracks, frowning. "What?" he said, his tone filled with disbelief. "Just a routine check, sir," Daniel repeated, his voice calm and professional. Ryan let out a sharp laugh. "A routine check? For me?" he scoffed, looking Daniel up and down. It wasn't just disbelief, it was insult. Ryan glanced at the other shoppers, people who were now watching. He couldn't believe this was happening. "Do I look like someone who needs to steal?" he said, louder this time. "Look at me." He stretched out his arms, showcasing his expensive clothes. "I could buy this whole store if I wanted to." Other customers paused, whispering. Some raised their eyebrows. Daniel remained unfazed. He had dealt with angry, entitled customers before. "It's just a policy, sir," he explained, still calm. "Random checks for everyone." But Ryan wasn't interested in logic. He smirked, shaking his head. "Let me guess," he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "You're checking me because you think I'm a shoplifter." Daniel didn't react. "You know what your job is, right?" Ryan continued. "You're here to open doors for people like me." His smirk widened. "Not to act like you're in charge." A few shoppers shifted uncomfortably. Some looked away, pretending not to hear. Others watched in silence, waiting to see what would happen next. But Daniel, he didn't flinch. He had heard worse. He'd seen real conflict, real danger. And this? This was just another rich boy with an attitude. Still, he gave Ryan one last chance. "Sir, I'm just doing my job." But Ryan wasn't done. He pulled out a thick wad of cash from his pocket, flipping through the bills. "Here," he said, waving the money mockingly. "Why don't you take this? Maybe then you'll stop wasting my time." A few people gasped. Someone pulled out their phone, discreetly recording. Ryan grinned, feeling victorious. He thought he had won, but he had no idea who he was dealing with. By the time this day was over, he would regret every word. Ryan waved the money in front of Daniel's face, smirking. "Go ahead, take it," he said loudly, making sure everyone around them could hear. "You probably need it more than me." A few customers exchanged shocked glances. A woman near the entrance whispered to her friend, "Did he just try to pay him off?" Another man raised his phone slightly, pretending to check messages, but was actually recording. Ryan didn't care. He was used to being the center of attention, used to getting his way. But Daniel, he didn't even blink. He stood tall, hands clasped behind his back. His posture was straight, his expression unreadable. He had seen arrogance before. It didn't impress him, and it certainly didn't intimidate him. "Sir," Daniel said, his voice still calm, "I'm not taking your money. I just need to check your bag, and you can go." Ryan laughed sharply. "Oh, so now you're trying to act professional," he mocked. "Please, you're just another mall cop who takes orders from people like me." He turned to the watching crowd, grinning. "Isn't this hilarious?" he said, waving toward Daniel. "He actually thinks he has authority over me." A few of his friends, who had been standing nearby, chuckled. One of them, a boy named Jason, nudged Ryan's shoulder. "Dude, just ignore him," Jason said, shaking his head. "He's not worth it." Ryan snorted. "Oh, I know," he said smugly. "I just think it's funny. A guy like him trying to tell me what to do." A woman standing near the entrance crossed her arms. She'd been watching quietly, her face unreadable. Finally, she spoke. "You should show some respect," she said simply. Ryan whipped his head around. "Excuse me?" The woman, dressed in an elegant suit, tilted her head. "I said, you should show some respect." Ryan rolled his eyes. "Stay out of it, lady." She just smiled. "You might regret this later," Ryan scoffed. Daniel exhaled slowly. He had every reason to put this kid in his place, but he had nothing to prove. "Are you done?" Daniel asked, finally breaking his silence. Ryan grinned. "Oh, I'm just getting started." He pulled out his phone and snapped a picture of Daniel. "I think I'll send this to the mall's management," he said smugly. "See how long you keep your little job." Daniel tilted his head slightly, watching him. And then he smiled. Not an angry smile. Not a nervous smile. Just a knowing smile. As if he already knew something that Ryan didn't. Ryan frowned. Why wasn't he nervous? The air felt different now. The crowd, the employees inside the store, the shoppers who had been watching. They all sensed it. Something was about to change. But Ryan? Ryan was still too full of himself to realize. And by the time he did, it would be too late. Ryan smirked as he looked down at the photo of Daniel on his phone. He tapped his screen a few times, pretending to type out a message. "Maybe I should send this to the mall's management," he said, his voice dripping with mockery. "Let's see how long you keep this little job." Daniel didn't flinch. He simply watched Ryan, a small, unreadable smile tugging at the corner of his lips. His posture remained steady, his stance firm, but his eyes held something different, something Ryan didn't understand. It wasn't fear. It wasn't frustration. It was something else entirely. Ryan frowned slightly. He had expected the guard to panic, to apologize, to back down, but instead, he stood there as if he already knew the outcome of this situation. The confidence in his eyes unsettled Ryan, though he quickly shoved the feeling aside. The murmurs around them grew louder. Some people had stopped pretending to browse and were openly watching now. A few of them had their phones out, recording the scene. Ryan still believed he was in control, still convinced that everyone in the mall saw him as the wealthy, powerful one in this exchange. A voice broke through the tension. "I really think you should stop while you can," the woman in the elegant suit said again. She had been standing quietly before, but now there was something in her voice that made even Ryan hesitate for half a second. He turned to her, his cocky smile returning. "And why's that?" he challenged. The woman tilted her head slightly. "Because you clearly don't know who you're talking to," Ryan scoffed, laughing. "Oh, please, he's just a security guard." He looked back at Daniel and sneered. "You should be thanking me. Maybe, if you do your job right, you'll get promoted to something better, like cleaning floors." A few people gasped. Someone in the crowd muttered, "Wow, this kid really has no idea." Ryan's grin widened. He was enjoying himself, basking in the attention. But then, something happened that he didn't expect. Daniel exhaled slowly, as if giving Ryan one last chance to walk away from this moment with a shred of dignity. When Ryan didn't take it, Daniel shook his head lightly and said, "You should be careful how you treat people. You never know who they really are." Ryan let out another loud laugh. "Oh, I think I do," he said smugly. "You're just some nobody trying to feel important." The smile on Daniel's face didn't fade. If anything, it grew slightly. But he said nothing else. And for some reason, that silence unnerved Ryan more than anything. The security guard simply turned back toward his post, hands clasped behind his back, as if the conversation had never happened. That calm, unwavering confidence made Ryan feel something he wasn't used to: uncertainty. But in his mind, he had won. What he didn't know was that the real game hadn't even started. By the time the day was over, he would regret every single word he had spoken. Later that evening, Ryan lounged on his bed, scrolling through his phone without a care in the world. The confrontation with the security guard was already fading from his mind. He had humiliated a man who thought he had authority over him, and in Ryan's eyes, that was a victory. His father was away on business, his mother was occupied with some charity event, and as usual, he had the house to himself. It was just another night of doing whatever he wanted. As he mindlessly refreshed his social media feed, a notification popped up on his screen. Breaking news. War hero honored in special ceremony. Ryan wasn't interested in news. He was about to scroll past when something in the thumbnail caught his eye. A man in a formal military uniform stood at the center of the image, shaking hands with a high-ranking official. He had short-cropped hair, a sharp posture, and a calm, familiar expression. Ryan's breath hitched. No way. With shaking fingers, he clicked on the video. The screen cut to a news anchor speaking with excitement. "Tonight, we honor a true hero. Daniel Carter, a decorated war veteran, is receiving the Medal of Honor for his incredible service in a classified rescue mission that saved dozens of lives." A former Marine and Special Ops officer, Carter dedicated years of his life to protecting his country. After retiring, he chose to continue serving his community in a different way. Ryan's stomach dropped. The video continued, now showing clips of Daniel in his military days, footage of him in uniform, leading rescue teams, standing beside world leaders. And then, the camera cut to a live press conference, where Daniel himself stood in front of reporters. Ryan's body went stiff as he watched the same man he had humiliated just hours ago now standing confidently before the entire nation. The same calm expression. The same quiet authority. Except this time, the world knew exactly who he was. Ryan could barely breathe. His heart pounded as he watched the footage, his mind racing. The security guard, the nobody he had mocked, was a national hero. The man who he had looked down on was someone the entire country respected. A video played where a general spoke about Daniel's bravery. Carter has always been a man of honor. He could have lived in comfort after his service, but instead, he chose to protect people in his own community. That tells you what kind of man he is. Ryan's hands clenched into fists. The worst part, the confrontation at the mall had been recorded. Someone had uploaded a clip of Ryan waving money in Daniel's face, mocking him, laughing. The caption read, entitled, "Rich Kid Mocks War Hero, Instant Regret Incoming." The video had thousands of comments. "This kid is a joke. Imagine thinking you're better than a man who actually risked his life for others. Money doesn't buy class. I hope he sees this and realizes how small he really is." Ryan felt sick. His arrogance had led him straight into public humiliation. Just then, his phone rang. His father. Ryan swallowed hard before answering. "Hey, Dad! What the hell is this?" His father's furious voice roared through the phone. "Do you have any idea what you've done? I just got a call from 3 business partners asking why my son is trending for embarrassing himself in public." Ryan opened his mouth, but no words came out. "You went viral for all the wrong reasons, Ryan. And do you know who Daniel Carter is? That man is more respected than half the people I work with." Ryan shut his eyes, guilt hitting him like a freight train. "I want you to fix this," his father said sharply. "You're going back to that mall tomorrow. You will find that man, and you will apologize. In person." Ryan's stomach twisted. He had never been forced to face the consequences of his actions before. But this time, there was no running from it. The next afternoon, Ryan stood outside the luxury mall, shifting uncomfortably on his feet. His father's words still rang in his ears. "You will find that man, and you will apologize." In person, he had never apologized for anything in his life. Now, he was about to face the man he had humiliated, a man who turned out to be a war hero, respected by the entire country. Taking a deep breath, Ryan stepped inside. The mall felt different this time. Maybe it was because he knew people had seen the viral video. Maybe it was because for the first time in his life he wasn't walking in with arrogance, but with shame. He spotted the security desk where Daniel usually stood, and there he was, standing tall, his uniform crisp, his presence calm. He looked exactly the same as he had yesterday, except now, Ryan knew who he was. Daniel glanced up and noticed Ryan approaching. He didn't look surprised. Ryan swallowed hard, suddenly realizing how small he felt standing in front of him. Hi," Ryan mumbled, his voice lower than usual. Daniel nodded once. "Hello?" His tone was neutral, unreadable. Ryan's mouth went dry. How was he supposed to do this? Ryan cleared his throat. "I just wanted to, about yesterday." Daniel watched him patiently. Ryan let out a slow breath. "Just say it." "I was wrong," he said, forcing himself to meet Daniel's eyes. "I treated you like you were beneath me. And I didn't know who you were, but that's not even the point. The truth is, it doesn't matter who you are. No one deserves to be treated the way I treated you." Daniel was silent for a moment. Then he nodded. "You're right." Ryan blinked. "That was it?" I'm sorry," Ryan added quickly. "I mean it." Daniel studied him for a long moment before finally speaking. Do you know why I didn't react yesterday? Ryan shook his head. Daniel crossed his arms. Because I knew something you didn't. Respect isn't about money. It's not about power. It's about how you treat people. Ryan looked down at the floor. Daniel continued. I wasn't looking for an apology, but I was hoping you'd learn something from this. Ryan swallowed, nodding. I did. For the first time in his life, he actually meant it. As Ryan turned to leave, Daniel called after him. Ryan! Ryan stopped and looked back. Daniel's expression was unreadable again, but this time there was something different in his eyes. You can do better, Daniel said simply. Make sure you do. Ryan nodded slowly before walking away. And for the first time, he didn't walk with arrogance. He walked with understanding. Because today, he had learned what real respect looked like. Ryan walked out of the mall feeling different. He had come in expecting to say a few words and be done with it. But instead, he left with something he never had before. A real lesson in humility. Daniel had every right to be angry, to humiliate him in return. But instead, he taught him something that no amount of money could buy. Respect isn't given because of wealth or power. It's earned through character. Ryan had spent his life looking down on people he thought were beneath him. But today, he had seen the truth. The person he mocked was a man the entire country respected. And Ryan, he had been the fool. Maybe, for the first time in his life, he was ready to change. What do you think? Should everyone get a second chance? Or do actions like Ryan's deserve harsher consequences? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you believe respect should be given to everyone, no matter their job, race, or background, hit that like button and share this video. And don't forget to subscribe for more real-life lessons and powerful stories like this. Because sometimes one moment can change everything. See you in the next video.